Hello students, in last class we started IR spectroscopy. Today we will complete some remaining portions of IR spectroscopy and start NMR spectroscopy. Regions of IR spectra. As we already know that the most useful information obtained from an IR spectrum is what functional group. That means if we want to know the functional group present in any unknown organic compound, then we can simply run IR spectra for that compound and then we will get an IR spectrum. After reading the IR spectrum, we can determine that what type of functional groups are present in that particular sample compound. IR spectrum can be broadly divided into two parts. Here IR spectrum is shown. The first part is known as functional group region and the second known as fingerprint region. The functional group region is very important and it is on high frequency side between 5000 to 1300 centimeters. This green area, green, blue and red area. These three areas shows that what type of functional group is present in the sample compound. Here different peaks are given. These peaks are responsible for different type of functional groups. So on the basis of the frequency region or wave number region, here like OH, NH stretch, if a peak is at this place, this one is known as OH and NH. This confirms that OH group or NH group is present in the compound. This region is for CH stretch. Similarly, nitriles and carbenes, if a molecule is having nitriles, it definitely show a peak in the triple bond region. Similarly, double bond region is there. All the carbonyl compounds, C double bond C, C double bond N, shows its characteristic peak in this region. So the functional group region shows different type of functional group which are present in the compound. Fingerprint region is the middle frequency region between 1300 to 650 centimeters. This is 1300 to 650 centimeters. This region helps in the identification of unknown organic substance. And what is the specialty of this region? This region does not show any functional group, but what happens if a compound which is having similar type of structure, like in case of isomers, both isomers are having same functional groups, same type of CH bonds, etc. So these can be differentiated with the help of the fingerprint region, because as our fingerprint, no two fingerprints are matching. All the persons are having different fingerprints. Similarly, here also all the organic compounds are having different lines in the fingerprint region. So with the help of fingerprint region, we can easily differentiate the close related structures by reading the fingerprint region. So the fingerprint region is quite more complex but is very informative if we want to differentiate between the two closely related structures. Applications of IR spectroscopy. Most important application of IR spectroscopy is identification of the functional group in organic molecule, because if we know the organic groups which are present in the organic compound, all the functional groups, we can easily elucidate the structure of the compound, or at least we can know that nature, what is the nature of that compound, like it is having a triple bond or a double bond, or it is alcohol or aldehyde, or it is a ketone, acids, etc. So we will get very good information about the structure and functional group from the IR spectroscopy. There are different type of regions, as we have already discussed in earlier slide, like different region for the C double bond C, C triple bond C, H, C double bond O, H, O, C double bond O, etc. So all the functional groups are having some characteristic absorption frequencies, and you can easily find a list of absorption frequencies against different type of functional groups. So we can simply match the frequencies of the functional group, and we can easily read on the spectrum that which type of functional group is present in the particular sample compound. Next is the identification of unknown compound. This is done by simple fingerprint technique which involves matching the IR spectrum of unknown compound with that of known compound. Like we are having a list of spectrum of known compounds, and I am having a sample and I don't know which organic compound is present in that sample. So I can simply take a spectrum of that compound and I can match with lots of IR spectrums which are already present in different databases. So we can easily determine like we are matching our fingerprint, simply we can match the unknown spectrum with the lots of known spectrum. So we can identify the unknown compound. Next is determination of purity of sample. Like I am having a sample of any drug which is organic compound, and I just want to know that if there any impurity is present or not. So obviously if some impurity is present, we'll get an extra peak for that impurity. If impurity is not present, we will not get any extra peak for the impurity. So by this way we can easily check the impurity of the organic substances. Here example is given, like a small quantity of ketone in hydrocarbon is ketone is present in hydrocarbon. So hydrocarbon is having only double bond, single bond or triple bond, etc. But ketone is having a carbonyl group. So if hydrocarbon is containing a carbonyl, so obviously in the spectrum we will get a carbonyl peak for the carbonyl compound. So by this way we can easily detect any type of impurity, and also the type of impurity. That means the impurity contain which type of functional group. Next is to distinguish between inter and intramolecular hydrogen bonding. This is done by taking IR spectrum of the compound at different concentrations, because as you know that concentrations affects the hydrogen bonds, numbers of hydrogen bonds, and because as we dilute the any solution, what happened, the molecules will go far apart from each other, and hence there is some decrease in the hydrogen bonding. So by taking IR spectrum of a compound in different dilutions, we can easily check whether there is hydrogen bonding or not. And also, as you know that there is no effect of concentration of intramolecular hydrogen bonding, because the hydrogen bonding takes place in a single molecule. So there is no effect of dilution on intramolecular, and there is effect of dilution on intermolecular. That means we can easily detect that whether intermolecular hydrogen bonding is there or intramolecular hydrogen bonding is there by taking IR spectrum at different dilutions. Next is to determine the structure of organic compound. As we already discussed in fingerprint region, in functional group region, we can easily determine the structure of organic compound if we know that which type of carbon hydrogen bond is there and which type of functional groups are present in that particular compound. NMR spectroscopy. NMR spectroscopy is different form of interaction of electromagnetic radiation with matter. As in earlier two spectroscopies, UV spectroscopy and IR spectroscopy, the sample is just directly placed into the radiation, whether UV radiation or IR radiation, and we will get a spectrum. But in this case, in NMR spectroscopy, the sample is subjected simultaneously with two magnetic fields. One is a stationary magnetic field and another is varying at the same radio frequency. Radio frequency is used for the NMR spectroscopy. So the particular combination of these two field energy is absorbed by the sample, and signal is obtained when electromagnetic field is provided to the nucleus of the sample. The nucleus start to spin around the nuclear axis and generate another magnetic field. And particular combination of these two fields, the energy is absorbed by nucleus. This technique is called as NMR. That means when these two magnetic fields will be equal, only that time a signal will be produced. The transition of nucleus occurs in radio frequency region only. Transition of nucleus, that means in IR spectroscopy vibration takes place in the bond. In UV spectroscopy, the transition of electron from the ground state to the excited state takes place. And in case of NMR, the transition of nuclear states. Nucleus transition in nucleus magnetism takes place, and that requires the radio frequency region or the energy which is fall in the radio frequency region. The radio waves are considered for lowest energy. It is having lowest energy as compared to the IR and UV, and it affects the nuclear spin in the atom. In general, the study of radio frequency radiation by nucleus is called nuclear magnetic resonance. The method of NMR was first developed by E.M. Purcell and Felix Bloch. So, let's start the NMR spectroscopy in detail. So, first we will discuss the basic principle of NMR spectroscopy. It is based on the nuclei property. So, the nuclei are positively charged. As we know that nuclei is a positive charge and spin on an axis. It is having an axis and it spin on that axis, like here shown like this, the spinning nucleus. This one is the spinning nucleus, and the precessional orbit. This circle is the orbit of the nucleus, and if magnetic field is applied, so this in a center it is having one movement, that is spinning of the nucleus, and in the magnetic field it is having also a precessional movement. So the magnet is having its own axis and it is spinning type. Normally the nuclear magnetic fields are randomly oriented. When we are not going to apply any external magnetic field, it is randomly oriented. There is no side. It may be orient any side, whether left, right, up, down, any side. So this is the first one is the case when there is no external magnetic field is applied. The tiny magnet nuclei can spin in any direction. But as we apply the nuclear magnet, as we apply the external magnetic field, either the nucleus aligned itself with the external magnetic field, like in this case, or it will oppose the magnetic field, as in the case where the arrow is downside. So before the magnetic field or without the magnetic field, it can orient in any side, but after applying a magnetic field, either it aligned with the magnetic field or it opposed the magnetic field. The frequency of precession is proportional to the strength of magnetic field. That means here the center, it is having its own spinning, and in magnetic field it is having another spinning, that is known as precessional motion. So the precessional motion is different and spinning is different. So it is having two types of motions, and the frequency of precession is proportional to the strength of magnetic field. More the magnetic field, the precessional speed is increased. So it directly dependent on the magnetic field we are going to apply. As noted by the equation, W omega 0 is equals to gamma B naught. The frequency omega 0 is called the Larmor frequency. Omega 0 is known as the Larmor frequency. Gamma is constant here and has unit of radians per second. The proportionality constant gamma is known as gyromagnetic radiation and is proportional to the magnetic moment. Gyromagnetic ratio is the proportional to the magnetic moment of the nuclei. Clear? Now, if the radio frequency energy having a frequency matching the Larmor frequency is introduced at a right angle to the external field. First, we applied external magnetic field. Due to external magnetic field, the nucleus either aligned with it or opposed with it and having a precessional motion with Larmor frequency. Then we apply another radio frequency which is at right angle to the external field along the x-axis. The precessing nucleus will absorb the energy and magnetic moment will flip to its I is equals to minus half state. I is equals to minus half state. So here you can see, you will clearly understand that if there is no field, what happens? In absence of field, the spinning can be in any direction. After applying the magnetic field, it may be on opposite or it may be aligned with the external magnetic field. Usually the aligned state is stable state and opposed state is unstable state. That means the transition takes place from aligned state to opposite state after absorbing a radio frequency. So here a field is applied, magnetic field is applied. In presence of magnetic field, if it is aligned with the magnetic field, after absorbing the radio frequency, it will transform from the aligned state to the opposed state. Aligned state is known as plus half state and opposed state is known as minus half state. I is equals to plus half or I is equals to minus half. So, for the transition, the energy should be equal to the energy gap between the aligned state and the opposed state. At that frequency only resonance will occur, as both the energies are matching together and a signal is obtained. The energy difference between aligned and opposed to the external magnetic field is generally small and dependent upon the applied magnetic field also, because the precessional motion is dependent on the applied field. So obviously the energy gap will also be dependent on the applied field, and the spin is flipped after the absorbing radio frequencies. So this is the basic principle of NMR. Very clear. A spinning nucleus which should have at least half value of magnetic moment, and at that magnetic moment, if we apply external magnetic field, the spinning of nucleus may aligned with the external magnetic field or opposed with external magnetic field. The aligned is lower energy state and opposed is higher energy state. When it absorbs radio frequency, it transforms from the aligned state to the opposed state and gives a signal. NMR active nuclei. As we know that a nuclei to be NMR active should have some value of I. I is nuclear magnetic moment. So if the value of I is equals to 0, the nuclei is NMR inactive. If I is having some value, then the nuclei is NMR active. We can easily predict the nuclei that it is active or inactive by knowing the number of protons and neutrons in the nucleus. If number of protons and neutrons both are even, in that case the value of I is equals to 0, and those type of nuclei are NMR inactive. For example, carbon 12, oxygen 16, sulfur 32, etc. All other nuclei are NMR active because all other nuclei are having some value of I. If the number of protons and neutrons both are odd, in that case the I is having some positive integer value, like in case of 2H, 14N, 10B, etc. And other cases odd even or even odd number of protons and neutrons. The examples include 1H, 11B, 13C, etc. So all these are having a value of high integer. In general, the nuclei which are having value of half integer are best to use in NMR. And the most common NMR technique is 1H NMR and 13C NMR. NMR basically shows that how many different types of hydrogens or carbons are present on the basis of type of NMR. If we are utilizing the 1H NMR, then it will tell about the number of hydrogens, number of identical hydrogens, number of unidentical hydrogens, etc. And if in case of carbon 13, it tells about the number of carbons, etc. This is all for today. Thank you for listening carefully. In next class, we will explore some more interesting facts about the NMR.